Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey. We have talked about fictional bands here on the 6M before. We've actually reviewed This Is Spinal Tap, one of the greatest fictional bands of all time. Sequel to that coming later in 2025. Stay tuned for that. We'll definitely cover that when it happens. And there have been other bands we talked about here before too. The Wonders from That Thing You Do. And there's probably a few others here and there. So yeah, it's an interesting sort of little corner of Hollywood, the fictional bands, the stuff that, for the soundtrack, it's, you're seeing the actors on stage who may or may not always be singing the songs. But then, based on the soundtrack itself, you'll either hear the actors, or you'll hear real musicians, real singers who are portraying that band. We know that Joaquin Phoenix actually sang as Johnny Cash. We've covered Walk the Line here in the 6M. We've also covered Ray. We know Jamie Foxx, of course, sang in the voice of Ray Charles and the style of Ray Charles. Just some amazing work there. Of course, two classic films. And, there's a lot of others throughout the years, of course. But today we're talking about one of my favorite movies of all time, featuring a great fictional band, to the point where it just feels like the real deal. Because if you've ever seen Almost Famous, you know that Stillwater feels like a real band. And it's credit to the director, Cameron Crowe. It's credit to the cast, to everyone associated with this who did the music for real, and how everything just kind of blends together and makes a fantastic film. And that's what we're talking about here today. I had to actually look in the archives to see if we'd covered it. We had not, which kind of surprised me. But here we are, kids. We're going to take care of that today and knock this out. So let's talk about it. Almost Famous is a 2000 American comedy drama film written and directed by Cameron Crowe, starring an assorted cast, and it tells the story of a teenage journalist writing for Rolling Stone magazine in the early 1970s, touring with the fictitious rock band Stillwater, and writing his first cover story on the band. The film is semi-autobiographical, as Crowe himself was a teenage writer for Rolling Stone. This film performed poorly in theaters. It actually only grossed $47.4 million on a budget of $60 million, which I did not know that. But it did receive widespread acclaim from critics, received 4 Academy Award nominations, including a win for Best Original Screenplay. It was also awarded the 2001 Grammy Award for Best Compilation Soundtrack Album for a Motion Picture, Television, or Other Visual Media. This has been hailed as one of the best films of that year, and it was actually the 9th best film of the 2000s. It won 2 Golden Globe Awards, Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, and Best Supporting Actress. And it has since become a cult classic in every sense of the word. And that, kids, is the lowdown for Almost Famous. Phil, we have talked about this before, the idea of fictional bands, fictional acts, fictional singers. And it just occurred to me that I left out the 5 heartbeats in that intro. And so my oversight there.
Yeah.
What do you...
Don't leave out Steel Dragon.
Can't leave... You say Steel Dragon, dude, I am so up to do Rockstar, and we just have not covered it yet. It's such a weird little movie, too. Not to get off track, but not a bad flick. I think the ladies kind of enjoyed it more than the dudes did at the time, but I could be wrong. I mean, Zach Wilde's in it, so I can't be upset about that. So,
yeah, I enjoyed it. I think it's a good movie.
Maybe we'll do that here at some point. So, in terms of Almost Famous, have you seen this several times? What's your overall opinion of it? What do you think?
I've seen it more than once. I think my opinion of it as an adult has changed a lot. I think you kind of have to understand certain things about what it's attempting to depict, especially that time period. early 70s. And I think also, of course, uh, it's funny. I watched it this time as an adult, as a writer, as an entertainment writer, and that changed a lot of my thoughts on it as well.
Mm. How so? How did it change for you this time?
I mean, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the main character's story hits harder for me as a writer.
Mm.
And I think, like, particularly a lot of the stuff, like his relationship with Lester Bangs, I think it hits differently. Like a lot of advice he gives him, it just hits so much differently when he's telling him, like, yeah, none of these people are really your friends. Like the whole point here is to make you feel like you're one of them, like you're cool, and you're not. Like even the phone call he has with him when he comes back from the trip, and he's like, "You're not cool. You've never been cool."
Yeah. I've
And
met you. You were not cool. Yeah.
I've met you. You're not cool. And like, it's always about a woman, Those guys are cooler than you. They get the women, even though you're smarter than them. Like everything about like their relationship hits a lot different. Like it's very sharply written.
So well written. I love this movie. I just every time I see it, I don't know about you, but this is one of those films I could put on and be doing things and just have it in the background and not feel like I have to stop and watch it. But if I want to, I will. Like it's one of those films for me, man. I've always enjoyed this. But I like where your head's at in terms of how your perspective has changed. Cause I don't think that happens all the time. I mean, but if it's something you hadn't revisited for a while, maybe it'll change at that point. The um the music, I don't think, Phil, we can overstate how incredibly great the music is on this soundtrack, how much this sounds like a real band, looks like a real band. I mean, believability, even in something that's not real, is everything, as you know. Like,
Mhm.
dude, I think this movie hits the mark on so many different levels, but not the least of which, of course, as you said, is the journey of the main character. I mean, is there a better, like, sort of film like this? I mean, I don't recall since this movie. I mean, there have been other rock and roll, there's been biopics and stuff, but I don't know, man. This movie just has heart and it has humor and it has a great music. It's hard to say if anything's kinda topped it since this has come out, you know?
No, I don't know if anything else has properly captured this time period.
Yeah. What a
Early
time period.
70s, like a lot of what has become classic rock. And again, Lester Bangs' words, they hit hard and like this is it. This is the end. I wouldn't say I'm as cynical as he was and said that that was going to be the end of rock and roll, but when the corporations came in, things always change. We kind of talked about that before we started recording
Mhm.
with wrestling again. Corporation gets their hold of things and their whole push is to make money. That's the first thing. A lot of the soul of these things go away. And that's happened in hip hop, that's happened in so many other things, so many forms of entertainment.
Yeah, hip hop, rock, it's happened in metal, it's happened in a lot of different places where it started out honest. It started out as just music. It started out as just wrestling. It started out as just a show, and then it became something a lot bigger later.
Yes.
Crazy. I mean, the thing with Banks, and we'll go ahead and talk about the cast here, and kind of going out of order here, but Philip Seymour Hoffman once again proving why he was a legend in his own time. This
Yes.
guy, dude, he was so great in this movie, man.
Yes. This movie is part of what put him on the map.
Yeah.
And he is phenomenal in it. He does a great job. Um, like I said, a lot of his sage advice and a lot of what he represents in this movie is, I mean, it is just so instrumental and he plays it great.
Mhm. Yeah. Really good stuff. And, we lost him in 24. He's been gone for 11 years. I had no idea
Wow.
it'd been that long.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just his character is so brilliant because you have this dichotomy of the lifestyle of a rock star in that world and what is actually real. And that's a theme throughout this movie of what is fantasy and what is reality.
Mhm.
And several times Bangs is like, this isn't real. He says that to start this, like you're gonna be told this, you're gonna get this, and this is a guy that has done it. He's been a rock journalist, so he understands. Like he's been there, he's seen it. He's telling this kid like, bro, you're gonna get this thrown at you, you're gonna get that, and when he goes through this whole journey, he comes back and he had the conversation with Bank at the end. It's like, yeah, it's this come back down to reality of yeah, that's this isn't real. Like what you have at home, your family, that's real. What you have,
Mhm.
like your talent as a writer, that's real. All the rest of this stuff is it's not real. It's part of the mystique. It's part of the appeal of rock and roll.
Yeah, the phone calls they have are great. Uh, when he calls him to tell him he got the Rolling Stone gig to write about Stillwater, and he's like, "Oh well, whatever, man. But they're gonna change your story. They're gonna rewrite it. And you're gonna have to fight them. And you know what? Just do it. It'll be good for you."
Yeah.
And he's like,
And
"What are you
that
listening to?" And he says, "Stillwater." Just go, "What?" And he just hangs up. It's so awesome.
yeah. Um but again, that's it's so funny because uh, again, my perspective has changed because I've experienced many things as a writer. And you get these big highs, like getting a big project, like getting a write for an outlet that's bigger than anything you've ever written for. And just that high of getting these opportunities is great. And then you get there, and the things you have to do once you get the opportunities are different.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I mean, you know this when you get this idea of what you want something to be, you already know what your voice is, and then you have to sit down with the editor, and the editor has an idea of what the outlet wants it to be, and what the outlet is going to try and sell it as. And so, like I said, the Lester conversations just hit differently as somebody that's written for big outlets and understands, like, yeah, you're gonna be over the moon. Oh yeah, great, complex, and then you get in there, and it's like, wait, okay, sure, yeah, yeah, sure, I'll do that. But then it's like, oh wait, that too? Okay, well I didn't intend to, but sure, because that's how it goes. That's the
right.
game.
Yeah, because they've got different masters to serve, and the only thing you want to
Yes,
do is just write your story.
yes, and don't read that the wrong way if you're listening to this. And I'm trying to take a jab at complex. I just use complex as an example. When when you have your own outlet, like when you have a blog or when you have your like small column at like some newspaper or what this kid had like being able to write for Cream magazine and that's your thing. They let you run with it and do what you want. It's different when you have to go somewhere else and serve the needs of what a big outlet is and what like the masters that they want you to serve. It's the same. It's really a it's a really a parallel for rock music, and it's different. You starting your band and having this idea of what you want to do with music, and then once you start getting bigger, it changes because it's not just you making art for the sake of your own enjoyment. It's you making art that is commercial now, and it has to sell. It has to make money.
It's the old, we're fans of AEW, and I know it's a weird reference, but like, it started off as one thing, it's now something else. And
Yeah,
then, you had ECW back in the day that gets on national TV and it becomes, all right, well, now you're going to have to start conforming a little bit. And Heyman refused. And it's like, well,
yeah,
you're playing to a national audience now, but nope, he would never change the product. I'm like, okay, well, ooh,
it's,
you know,
yeah, yeah. You can't get past that. If something starts as counterculture, eventually, because of the way capitalism works, it has to feed more than just your small niche audience.
mm,
It has to
you-
service more audiences because in order to grow and to make money, it has to.
yeah. You ever been into the Sex Pistols, by the way?
I haven't.
Can't say I've ever really, everybody likes Anarchy in the UK. It's a great song, but like, Johnny Rotten always a jerk, like all the time in these interviews, very standoffish. And I'm thinking, it's punk rock. Do you want him to sit there and conform? Do
Yeah.
he's staying true to himself, even if you don't like it. He doesn't care.
Yeah. There's so many great examples of that in art and entertainment where some guy started as one thing and then once it turns into this thing that is now a cash cow, you got a choice to make.
Mhm.
I mean, that is dogged Alan Moore's career. Alan Moore has this idea of what he wants his art and his writing to represent, and the people that he's placing it in the hands of have a different idea of what it is going to be because then
Mhm.
it has to make money for us.
Yeah.
You can sit here and say you don't want to make a sequel to Watchmen all you want. We want to make money off of this thing that you wrote 20 years ago because it's still relevant and people still love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's once everybody gets involved, other hands get involved, things change. I did like the voiceover from Bangs during Jimmy Fallon coming in and trying to sell these guys on being their new manager. Like,
Yes.
nice touch, man.
This when I watched it this time, I don't know how I'd never picked this up. Uh, but when when he gives him the advice on what to tell Rolling Stones, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, just tell them it's a think piece on this, and they'll eat that up." And he tells them exactly what he says, and they are just like thrilled with it. They're like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that sounds great. How about we give you the cover story?"
Yeah. Yes.
um, but that in itself is funny that he has this pegged. But the fact that Williams is basically doing this voice, and I did not pick up on it until this time I watched it. I'm like, it almost sounds like he's doing a Philip Seymour Hoffman impersonation because he kind of sounds like him.
He does kind of sound like him. Yeah.
It's so funny when I noticed that I was like, oh, he's not just using his voice; he's putting on this adult uh voice that very much sounds like Bangs.
Right. That's great. Boy, that voice came naturally to him. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. To the point of what we've been saying here, kids, the four actors playing the lead roles of the band of Stillwater we'll get to in just a moment. They rehearse for 4 hours a night, 5 nights a week for 6 weeks in order to gel and to look more like a real band. I think that paid off, Phil. If you saw footage of these guys, you would just assume, if you didn't know it was a movie, you would assume that, yeah, this is probably a band. Like, how old is this footage? Do you know what I mean? Like, it just looks like the real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. The cast, let's talk about that. Billy Crudup as Russell Hammond. I love this guy. I mean, fanboys know him as Dr. Manhattan from that ill-fated Watchmen flick.
Hmm.
But like, he is fantastic. He's actually a musician anyway, and uh, just this, I don't know, man. His performance in this movie, I think, is great among the several other great performances in this movie. But I don't think it's the same without Billy Crudup, man. He's really great as Russell.
He's fantastic. He looks a lot like George to me. Is that just me? He looks a lot like George
He
Harrison in this
does.
movie
Yeah.
with the mustache, his hair, and everything. He looks a lot like George, um, and I think that that's part of the appeal. Like there's several Beatles references throughout this movie, um, but he does such a great job of creating this like enigma of what a rock star is and like they're incredibly flawed and all these other things, but there's something about him that you want to love this guy. And it's
Mhm.
just like no matter how many like sides of him that you see like, oh, that's terrible, but you still end up liking this guy by the end of the movie. 'Cause it's just something about him, and that in itself is what it's like to be a rock star in a nutshell. You go through this journey of this kid seeing every side of this guy, uh, the myth of him, and then seeing like parts of him, the real person, and seeing like his failings, and at the end of it, still wanting to be a fan of this guy.
Mm. Yeah, he's very likable, even though he makes bad decisions and life on the road. Like, I'm not here to defend extramarital affairs or anything, but Phil, as a fan of music, and you've seen your share of biopics and seen your share of backstage stuff on the Beatles and other bands through the years, Queen or whatever. Anytime you hear about, marriages are broken up and stuff, like, I'm not defending anybody, but like, maybe this is why you don't get married when you're in a rock band. Maybe it's not a great idea because you're going to be on the road. And I'm not saying you're not in control of yourself because you're a grown man. You should control yourself. But I don't know. Is it unrealistic to expect grown people to control themselves on the road?
Uh, I don't know. It's tough because celebrities don't live normal lives.
Sure.
They unfortunately have to take a lot of the slings and arrows to be this thing that we lift up on a pedestal.
Mm,
And when you have to be so many things to so many people, it's extremely hard. And to the point in this movie of him being on the road and representing this thing. I mean, we've seen it like what he represents to the groupies, what he represents to the people in that town when he went to that house party, and um, you're supposed to be all of these things, but also be human.
mm,
And humans have faults. They have impulses. Humans are greedy and selfish in ways that, you know, yeah, you should be able to control yourself. But when you're being thrown all of these things that normal people don't have access to, it's hard to just be like, well, just say no.
mm. Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. Is that bit at the kid's house in Topeka? Is that the best bit of the movie?
It's so great because, again, it's such a great depiction of what it's like to be a rock star. Like when he's sitting in that bedroom and he's talking to them and he's basically just saying nonsense. And they're all just like on every word he's saying, they're all just like sitting there in amazement with their mouths agape. And he's just high out of his mind, just saying
He
whatever.
is.
And they're just like fully enthused by the whole thing. They're worshiping this guy. You would think they've got like the Dalai Lama in there speaking to them.
This is real, man. This is real. He's like touching stuff. It's so he's so out of his mind, stoned. Like, you know what I mean? So good. Like, this is real, man. And he's just going on and on and on. That kid's like, gonna see me feed a rat to my snake. He's like, yes. Like, didn't even hesitate. So good, man. There's some great comic timing in there too with him on the roof.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
the I'm a
Maybe
Golden God stuff. That's so much fun.
maybe that's not your last words. Maybe we want to work on the final words. And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, because initially he's like, I'm on drugs.
Yep. Oh, it's great. It's great. He yeah, it's just one of those things where, like, again, he's so likable. Crudup is likable guy anyway, and he just really embodies this character, man. Like, I just can't say enough good things about it. And, like, he has great timing himself. He's an accomplished actor at this point in time, but, like, man, he's when this was happening, again, this was, in case we for some reason didn't announce when this came out, this film actually turns 25 years old this year.
Yes. But yeah, again, when you talk about things, my understanding of the entertainment business, as someone that writes about wrestling and has interacted with people in the business, it could be more spot on with the relationship between people that write about this and people that are actually in the entertainment business.
Mm.
Um, Especially like, I mean, even William's first interaction with him, where they're like, "Buzz off, get out of here," and then when he starts like lavishing them with all this praise and like speaking to their egos, they're like, "Yeah, yeah, come on in." Now they want to be your friend because I need this. And when you understand how deeply insecure a lot of entertainers are,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
also a big part of this movie, it's like, yeah, that fits. That's definitely what it is.
When he calls Russell's playing incendiary, and Jeff Peavy goes, "I'm incendiary too, man." It's so good.
Oh man, the stuff between him and Jason Lee as Jeff BB.
Yes.
and Crudup is so funny, man, because he's so clearly jealous, and it it's so funny, man. All of it is like, well, what about me?
Yeah. All the time. They get the t-shirts in there. It's like, can we just skip to the part where we're not mad and we're all just having a laugh about this?
Yeah, so good.
Oh, it's like, well, I'll say it. We've all been thinking that your looks have become a problem. I'm like, man, for that to be said out loud to anybody,
So
that's
funny.
great, man.
That, and I would say the scene on the plane is probably the best scene in the movie.
Oh, it's awesome. It's so good. Yeah, when they all think they're gonna die. It's like, maybe something should happen. Maybe I never said this enough. I love all of you. And they all start going down the line of the stuff they've done. It's
Yeah.
like,
It goes from like this really heartwarming moment of like, oh, that's great, and then it then you start stripping away more of like the idea of who these guys are, and it's just like, well, wait, all you guys all seem kind of terrible, and you all treat each other terrible. It just kind
yeah,
of seems like none of you guys actually like each other.
yeah. It's like an extended family type of environment. I mean, really, it's like they're not necessarily stuck together, but they kind of are because they all depend on each other to make money.
Yes, which very much makes me think of the Beatles. It's not like I believe in the end that all four of those guys hated each other,
Mm,
but I think that they started that band at a period in their lives where they didn't have a chance to grow up and be who they wanted to be yet. They were
mm,
very young. And you're growing up in this thing, and now you're basically told you have to keep doing this thing that people love, and you got to stay together because this thing makes money.
yeah,
And I think Jeff says that at one point in the movie. It's essentially that way of like, yeah, like we've come to understand this is the situation, and we just put up with it because we got to keep doing this thing. So I'm sure a lot of bands go through that same experience.
oh, dude, no doubt about it. And I like that Russell tells him early on, like he's not a jerk about it, but he's like, I grew up with these guys, but I can't play all that I can play. I'm past them as musicians. But the more popular we get, the bigger their houses get, the more responsibilities, the more pressure, and it gets harder for me to walk out. So it's like, as a musician, he's outgrown them. He could go do a solo project, but he don't want to leave them high and dry.
I mean, that's to Jeff's point. Like you stand like you're above all of us, but
Yeah,
at the same time, when you look at this as a movie, he seems like he's the most flawed of all of them.
he does, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, he does seem the one that to be the one that has the most issues. The other guy don't really have. I mean, of course, they're not focusing on anybody else really in terms of their personal lives, but he's outright having an affair on his wife, and they're all having to help him keep it secret because it's the road, and they just consider the road different than life at home.
yeah,
For better or worse. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You mentioned Jason Lee. I'm a big Jason Lee fan. Of course, I love all this stuff from Kevin Smith, and um, there was the show he did. I can't remember the name. Memphis Beat, I think, where he was a cop. Really good show, and it ended before its time. My Name is Earl. Great show. I mean, Jason Lee's such a talented guy, man, and like he was just such the best choice for this movie. He looks the part. I I, I just love him, man. I just think he brings. I can't even tell you what it is, and I'm not trying to sound, insanely smart here. He just brings something I can't put a finger on. And I don't know if it's because he's real. I don't know if he's just his smile. There's something about him, man. Every time I see him, I'm just kind of drawn to it. I don't know. It's just something about this guy, I think.
yeah. The way that I said that Russell reminds me of George. Jeff reminds me of like the aloofness and the natural coolness of Dave Grohl, even the way he wears his hair, everything. He reminds me
Ooh,
so much of Dave Grohl. Like he looks so similar to him in this movie.
I like that. That's a great point. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we just have to assume, of course, that Cameron Crowe's inserted a lot of the personalities that he knew as a young rock writer into this movie. And maybe I'm sure he's admitted to some of it through the years. Maybe some of it he's played close to the vest. Who knows? But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if these guys all had personalities that were very similar to the guys he knew on the road, of course.
Yeah. But I mean, to the point I was saying earlier, Jeff very much like he has this cool factor and he has this mystique to him as well. But once you get behind the scenes and you see how he is around the rest of his bandmates, his insecurities are clear as day.
Mm. Yeah, it's good. Good. Yeah, insecure. Yeah, for sure. Like he's, like you said, jealous. He's scared of not getting the accolades he deserves. I do like a bit. There's some self righteous, dialogue in this movie, which of course it's rock stars have overinflated egos, obviously.
Mhm.
But he's talking about, I get that guy off, man. Like I find the guy that's not into it and I make sure he's into it. Like it's like, you have your role to play and I've got my role to play. I'm just as important as anybody else here. And I'm like, you really don't have to say all those things, but again, fragile egos of rock stars, I guess.
Yeah. Even just the idea of how he initially was like, this guy's the enemy.
Mm.
They all jokingly call William the enemy. But when there's this idea of not just them being covered by a journalist or possibly getting a interview, an article, but getting the cover of Rolling Stone,
Mm.
this is different because again, we're being put on this pedestal. And once they realized they were getting the cover, he was the first one to jump up, like, I'm going to celebrate this because I
Mm.
need this to feed my ego.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, again, I can't say enough good things about him here. We don't want to leave out the other two primary characters here, of course. Kate Hudson as Penny Lane. Talk about Beatles references all the way through this movie. Kate Hudson at any given time is tough for me because, like, it's hard to know what's real and what's not because you hear stories and you read things and you're like, I don't like married to Chris Robinson from the Black Crows, and you hear things and like, is she that kind of person? Not sure. Don't really know because again, I don't know her personally, obviously, but like she's great in this movie. I'll say that.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I thought you meant like the ideas of nepotism or something, but that went left.
Well, maybe some of that, but also, and she's when she's married to Robinson, there were stories about how she kind of, I don't know, it's I wish I could just put it into words. Like she kind of controlled everything and was overbearing, and I don't know. I don't know if it was like an Ellen situation where like people around her were complaining about attitude or personality.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Does any of that ring a bell? Because all that was
I
coming out at one time.
I do remember that, but it's so funny because every time I see her, she looks so much like her mother, and
Doesn't she? Yeah.
and it's I know that her mother has had kind of like similar stories about her over the years, and it's tough to be a child of a celebrity
Mhm.
and grow up in its atmosphere where things are at your fingertips. And so maybe I don't know how much of that is there, but she is good in this movie. Um, she is another one where it's this theme of what is real and what isn't real. Like her relationship with William is so great because it feels so honest.
Mhm.
Um, like the rock stars see her as this object, as this thing, the same way that she sees them as this thing to be idolized. But William just sees her as a person. And I
Yeah, it's
think that
true.
that's so important to the narrative of this movie, the main theme of this movie. Um, and just like when you see all of like her being attempting to be mysterious and attempting to be alluring as Penny Lane, and then like you actually see her as like the real person when she is ODing. It's such a drastic difference,
Mhm.
such a stark contrast.
Yeah. He fell for her quick too, by the way.
He did. I mean, 15-year-old kid
Yeah, well.
around a lot of very attractive women. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would assume so. But he was also very sheltered.
sure.
Um, and so, but yeah, I think that that's one of the smartest choices that they made in this movie. That when all of this is happening with her and she's ODing in the paramedics come in and they're trying to pump her stomach and everything. He's not grossed out by it. He doesn't go like, "Let me get out of here and let me give her privacy." He has this smile on his face, like this is the first time I've like really seen her, and I still love her for who she is.
I picked up on that smile. That was even after all these years watching this movie, it kind of hit me weird. Like, yeah, he just saw her being real and like I don't know. I don't it's an odd kind of thing to see, but yeah, he was head over heels for her by that point. Maybe he thought, well, this is how she'll be with me now because she, no one's here for her but me and she's a real person after all. And when he confronts her about the band trading her, which is wow,
Harsh.
very harsh, but like, dude, he's not wrong about anything he says. He's just, he's 15, he's a dumb kid, doesn't know how to say things, but like, I think he's kind of right to push back on her when she's like, if anyone had spoke to me like this in the real world, he's like, what is this real world you're talking about? you know?
Yeah.
Good.
I love that in that moment when he pushes back and he's still trying to take Lester Bang's um, advice of just being honest. And he tells her like, "No, I'm the enemy. I am the guy that can ruin all of this for you guys. I can come bring all of this crashing down on you guys." I think he's
Mm.
trying to be everything that Bang has told him. And in that moment, when he sees that her feelings are really hurt, he was just like, "Oh no, I didn't intend to do that," because he's still a 15-year-old kid.
Yeah, no kidding.
But the way I read it when he's smiling, I think we all in life want to find unconditional love.
Mm.
That person that loves us no matter what mistakes we make, um, no matter how low we get. They want we want that. We want somebody to love us when we're up and love us when we're down. And I think in that moment he realized like, oh no, I don't just love this idea of her because that's what the rock stars like.
Mhm.
No, I like her for who she actually is.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah. And the way she manipulates everything to put him and Russell back together is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is also funny because most of the movie she spends her time manipulating people. I mean, she attempts to manipulate William for throughout this entire movie,
Yeah.
and he, eventually sees through it. But that's just what she does. She manipulates to get her way throughout this movie, and even
Yeah.
at the end, even in her regular life, she's still just like, "This is how it has to go." And I remember the first time I saw this, I thought maybe they were going to see each other for one last time. But there's two ways to read that whole thing. That she realized, like, I got to get off of this merry-go-round with this guy because there's never going to be a real relationship with him.
Yeah.
There's no happy ending for the two of us. But also, I think that you can make the case that she realized she loved the rock star. She loved everything that he represented. The same way for him, she loved the idea of him, but I don't think she really loved him.
Mm.
And I think that to a point, like, I don't think she felt rejected by Russell the person. I think she felt rejected by this thing that she had chased all this time and just the idea of being a rock star's girl.
Yeah. It's a whole world. It is very similar to the pro wrestling stuff because it is a whole other world. Like, and it's such a weird thing. I don't want to get off on it, but it's very much a different world.
Yeah.
And they have their own way they talk to each other and things that it's a shared experience. No one really knows behind the curtain unless you are behind the curtain, and it's like you're performing, and it's like you said earlier, it is entertainment, and it's yeah, no one really knows what you go through unless they're going through it with you, and it's a very it's just a different world. I mean, it's small town here, and small towns before, and involved with wrestling promotions, that it is a completely, it's almost like you're not it just takes you somewhere else. It's hard to put into words. It just
Yeah,
takes you somewhere else. You know what I mean? It gives you a sense of I'm playing in a massive sandbox. This is not work, and this is not paying bills, and this is not family drama. This is I get to be this other person for a while, and it's awesome. You know what I mean? It's really a different world.
yeah. Just this idea of just this traveling circus, and you get
Yes.
behind that curtain, and everything is different. But once you go back to your real life, this is real. And
Yeah.
I think some people live this idea of staying and traveling year round, that it gets hard. It gets hard to, find real things. And I think that's why it was also so great that scene where Russell's like, I got to get out of here. I have to go find real people and find something real, because it gets hard to figure out like what is real. Who are my real friends? Who actually loves me and wants to be around me for me?
Mm.
And yeah, a lot of that stuff on the road, it ain't real.
No, it's not. It's not real life. That's the problem.
Yeah. And yeah, when you're a rock star, it's not just, making this music and doing this thing and, creating this lifestyle for other people to see and creating this illusion for people. But it's like you got to keep up this appearance,
Mm.
and it's hard. I have to imagine it's hard. And then
Yeah.
on top of it, you're being offered all of these things that most people can't even imagine, the good and the bad.
And I love that the point was made by Fallon here that like you guys owe the record company more money than you're going to make.
Boink Studios is the home of Tom Clark's main event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Visit the site today for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Check out the site and bookmark today, boinkstudios.com.
You know, bands are touring right now in debt.
Yeah,
Right?
that's why you got
It's
to tour.
crazy. Yeah.
Because a lot of these bands, once they make the album, you go out on the road on in debt. You're touring to make money.
Yeah, for sure. We mentioned Philip Seymour Hoffman as Lester Bangs. Bangs was a real person. The guy behind, he actually began freelancing. Cream Magazine's was real. I think they actually brought it back, or I heard that they were going to bring it
Hmm.
back or something. Yeah. He actually died at a very young age. He died in 82 at the age of 33, and apparently was self-medicating because he had the flu. And it looks like everything he took was just like regular cold medicine, but he took the wrong mix of it, and it actually killed him, which is crazy. But
That's terrible.
right, like of all the ways to go. But Jack Black actually auditioned for this role, and so did John Favreau.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I
I
could
think
see.
Jack Black would have been great, actually.
Yeah, I could see Jack Black playing this role. But then again, it's just very hard to imagine this movie without Philip
Sure.
Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah, and let's see, Penny Lane is actually based on the real life Penny Lane Trumbull and her group of female promoters who called themselves the Flying Garter Girls Group. Though they were not in the group, various other women have been described as Crowe's inspiration. For instance, Pamela Desbar and Baby Buell. Sarah Polly was originally cast as Penny Lane, but when Brad Pitt dropped out, she dropped out as well. So apparently, Brad Pitt was attached to this as Russell. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, I believe a lot of the jokes about how good looking he was were because Brad Pitt was the initial um, cast for it.
That's really good. Yeah, it's apparently during filming, he and Crowe just both kind of decided this isn't working. Like I'm not the right fit, so he dropped out. The "I am a golden god" line was confirmed in 2020. Russell Crowe said that the words were said by Robert Plant on the balcony of the Riot House. So I guess he'd held on to that for a long time and finally admitted who said it.
That's funny.
That's awesome. We have not mentioned Patrick Fugit as William. Freaking great. He's
Excellent.
not a kid anymore, but Phil, he's great in this movie, man.
I believe this guy is 42 years old. If you want to
Shut
start,
up.
I believe he is 42 years old now. But yeah, he is great in this movie. Really, the heart and soul of this movie. He does such a great job of bridging the gap between his real life and reality. He works so great as like our eyes to this world.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. He's your way in. No doubt about it. 42. You're right. Oh my God. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I believe the other guy, the guy that's like the kid that's the big Zeppelin fan. Is
Jay
that
Baruchel.
that's what I thought. When I saw it
Yeah.
this time, I was like, oh, it's Jay Baruchel.
He's great, isn't he? He's so good. Just infatuated with Zeppelin. It's really awesome.
He keeps walking around with that pen everywhere he
Yeah.
goes. He's got that pen in the air.
I love that he's got that shirt that says, "Have you seen the bridge?" It's so awesome. It's such a, I want that shirt. I love it. So good, man. So good. Let's see. We've also got, we can't forget the ladies here. Anna Paquin, who you kind of forget is in this movie, is here.
Yeah, I definitely forgot that she was here. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. Polexia Aphrodisia. So,
I never knew that that was her last name. I just thought it was Polexia.
mm, yeah.
That once you add the last part to it, that sounds like a call girl name.
It does. Well, just like wrestling, they've got working names here. You know what I mean? It's great.
Yeah.
Firuza Balk as Sapphire. If you haven't seen her lately, do not look her up. No disrespect, but she's kind of frozen in my head during this time for whatever reason. She very much is.
Yeah, of course, very iconic because she was great
Hmm.
in this movie as well.
She is.
She played her movie very well. Also, famously in The Craft and Waterboy
Mm.
and a bunch of other movies I can't drawing a blank on. But yeah, she has one of those faces once you see her. It's like, oh yeah,
That's her. Yeah, she's Sapphire in this movie.
another very call girl esque name.
Very
very,
much.
very
Or
stripper esque name.
stripper. Yeah. Welcome to the stage, Sapphire. You got to get that. Got to get that on there. Yeah. We have to also mention Peter Frampton is in this film, a couple of different scenes, which is very cool. And when I know this, that when Stillwater's on stage and they're doing a song called "You Had to Be There," that was actually a Frampton tune, which I'm guessing the guys behind the sound of Stillwater just covered it for the movie because they had to give this band a little catalog of songs that they could play during the live performances. Which Fever Dog. I learned that song on bass, and if you've ever turned that up in your ears before, that song hits very hard, dude. And it's a great tune, also.
Yeah,
Pearl Jam. In fact, speaking of the music, Mike McCready from Pearl Jam was playing guitar for Stillwater's songs.
I did not know
Really,
that.
really good stuff. Yeah, legend. Yeah, what's funny is that like supposedly he meaning Cameron Crowe sent the script around town to see if he could get anyone to respond to it. Spielberg read it and called him on that Monday saying direct every word. So in other words, you should definitely be the one to do this. And it worked out for sure.
Yeah, he's of course got Jerry Maguire under his belt as well.
Hmm.
Two big movies to put on his resume.
Yeah, no doubt. He's done other things as well through the years. He was speaking about the turbulence on the airplane bit. That actually happened to him, but he
Terrifying.
was on a plane with Alice Cooper's band. When turbulence hit, one of the passengers yelled, "We're all going to die. I need to confess something." And he says, "I've been sleeping with your wife," at which point the pilot told everyone on the flight the plane was okay and they're landing safely, leaving everyone in awkward silence for the rest of the flight. So that actually happened.
That's great. But yeah, that's terrifying. As somebody that's been on a plane with turbulence, like I just can't imagine like
Ooh,
that
it's
kind of
frightening.
turbulence with like that kind of storm. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah. And when the drummer he shouts out, "I'm gay," and then immediately the turbulence stops.
Yes,
Dude.
and they're all just kind of staring, looking around. But that again says a lot about like the entertainment business, especially in the '70s.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, all of this other stuff that's coming out, like all of them admitting that they slept with his girlfriend and just, well, they all slept with the manager's girlfriend.
Mm.
And well, his ex-wife, sorry. And all the rest of this stuff that's just kind of like, yeah, par for the course. But once he says he's gay, that is like the bombshell of all bombshells at that time. They're like, wait, like nobody even responds to him.
Yeah.
Nobody even says anything.
Because it was 73 when he says this.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, dude. That's some deep stuff during that time period. Let's see. The bass player, Mark Kozeliak, I think, as Larry Fellows, the bass player. They actually, Cameron Crowe wanted Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains, but at the time Jerry was working on a solo album, did not have time to be involved. And he was actually in Singles and Jerry Maguire. So apparently he and Cameron were friends.
Hmm.
But again, he just couldn't get the time to work out here for the movie. We mentioned Jimmy Fallon plays Dennis Hope. Every name here is not real. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Bijou Phillips as Estrella Starr. She's one of the other ladies that we didn't mention earlier. Zooey Deschanel, that we did not mention as William's sister Anita. We don't see her a lot here. She is effing great. She's such a great actress, man. But
Yeah.
like the pushing back, and again, we didn't mention the mom, Elaine. This is Frances McDormand, who is A+. Dude, the dynamic here. If the mom is not the right actress, you don't feel any of it. And if the daughter's not the right actress, you don't feel it either. And their dynamic is great, man.
Yeah. Elaine is great. She's really one of the best characters in the movie.
Yeah.
And she's, man, she's so good. But yeah, Zoe is fantastic. Uh, she is great in the scenes we get to see her in, both at the beginning of the movie and towards the end of the movie. She is really, really great. Um, I just love that dynamic between her and Elaine. Their fights, and it just, you can just tell, again, that's one of those things, getting older and understanding, like, your parents are very annoying sometimes,
Mm,
but they're not doing anything malicious. They're not trying to keep you away from certain things to make your life miserable. They want what's best for you, and they really care about you.
mm.
And I think Zoe going away, or Anita going away, and understanding, like, yeah, okay, it's just my mom. And like when she's saying, I accept your apology, and she was like,
Yeah.
I didn't apologize, but she just let her have it because, it's mom. I know she is.
Yeah. She's like, I didn't apologize to you. But then she's like really glad to see her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because you could tell she missed her.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be the first one to come home. I'm not gonna give the first word, but I can make the excuse that, oh well, William brought me here, which I don't know if you caught this. I caught this time when I watched it. Um, there is the callback there of just how these relationships work. When Sapphire is explaining why Penny is in that party to see Russell, she says she's using you as her excuse for being here.
Mhm.
At the end, Zoe is using William as an excuse to go home.
Oh, well done. But technically, she didn't know that's where she was going because that's where he wanted to go. But in the end, it worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like when things circle back to each other. I love how they deal with the character of William, how they're all very cool to him, like, and friendly and stuff, and just making him feel welcome, and how they're all trying to make his mom feel better. They kind of take turns. Dude, when Minnie McDormand, talks to Russell on the phone, and he's just, hey, you got to worry about it. He's a great kid. And she sets him straight. And he's like, yes, ma'am. He immediately snaps to attention like he's being talked to, man. It's great.
Yeah, because all of these people are trying to manipulate William, and she immediately sees through him. Like, look, I know what this is. Like, you can peddle that to my son, but I'm telling you, I see what this is. I know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, and you can say what you want, but I'm not gonna let you corrupt my son.
Yeah.
Um, that's so great because, again, just that dichotomy of what's real and what's not, and just this fantasy of you get around all these people and everybody's your friend, everybody loves you, everybody, you're the life of the party. But no, 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 your mom and like her love for you is real. Like your family and your life at home is real. That stuff
Mm.
on the road ain't real.
Yeah, they've got him in. Well, you know, Russell's very upfront with him through the whole movie. I think when he's like, "This is the circus. No one wants to leave the circus. Nobody wants to go home." You know.
Yeah, but I mean, even he attempts to manipulate him. I love the
Sure.
running gag of every time he sits down in front of him with the recording equipment and a microphone, he finds a way to not answer his questions,
Yeah.
because he doesn't want to. He doesn't want anything out there. He doesn't want to actually do the interview, but he's stringing
Mhm.
him along the entire movie. Like, yeah, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, he doesn't want him because at first he's like, "Well, you guys can talk in front of him. We can trust him." I'm
Yeah,
like, "Come on, man. Who are you fooling?"
yeah, but even that part is a lie.
Yeah.
He's lying right to kid's face. Like, yeah, look, you can trust him. He's our friend, but at the
Yeah.
same time, he doesn't trust him.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. And for some reason, it pops me every time when they're at that table and they're playing poker or whatever game they're playing, this card game.
It's poker.
It pops me every time when they go to Red Dog, who's a real person, not a fictional character, but a real person, and they say, "I think you know Red Dog," and he's like, "Hey, brother," he's just getting high. Something about that's hilarious to me. I can't help it.
Hilarious.
So good.
Uh, yeah, but there's so many characters like that in this movie that, if you know anything about rock music in the '70s and you know some of these names,
Yeah.
um, that yeah, it's kind of like you're all led in this world, and it's just like, well, yeah, you know this guy, right? And then we look around, it's like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be the intended reaction for us as the audience. Like all these people on the road and inside this bubble, they're like, yeah, yeah, you know him, right?
Right. Of course. Yeah. The guy playing Red Dog is Zach Ward. Here's some trivia. He is Scut Farkus from A Christmas Story.
That's great.
I've never been a Christmas Story guy, man. Do you watch that movie every year?
I don't watch it every year, but I do enjoy it. It's one of
Yeah.
those movies that growing up, I saw it all the time. So it's just a nostalgia thing.
Mm. Here's another bit because I'm just going over trivia here. This is a dark turn. So a real musician named Les Harvey, guitarist for Stone the Crows, was actually killed when he grabbed a microphone that was not grounded in 1972. So Cameron put that in the movie.
It's wow, did not
Yeah.
know that. But I did think about it one time when I watched it. Like, wait a minute, he got shocked. I don't think this is just a matter of him hurting his hand and going backstage and going on with this tour. He would have had to go to the hospital. He got electrocuted.
Yeah. Yes. But yeah, they didn't show a hospital visit. I've played bass before with a friend of mine, and you would think by now I would know this is. I just have never bothered to look it up or to ask why this happened. But so I've got mine in my hand, and I'm going to like switch with him, and we're both plugged in with the amps on, and we both kind of got a little jolt when we physically handed each other's bass over. So I'm not sure what was happening there. Maybe something wasn't grounded correctly there. Maybe it was the amp or one of the amps. I don't know. But I'm like, well, I'm never going to do that again. Let me just set it down next time before I pick up another one. The amount of stuff in your own home that can kill you in terms of electricity is
Yeah,
shocking. No pun intended.
yeah,
That's why Tom doesn't do electrical work in his own home. It's not happening. I'll call somebody,
yeah. And I think we all just kind of take for granted a lot of things.
Yes. I've changed light switches before and not turned the power off. And that was not a good idea. But yeah, let's see. Who else do we have here? Mark Maron. Kind of forgot Mark Maron. He's unrecognizable without the glasses and the furry mustache,
Yes.
but he's great. His podcast, every podcast episode starts off with a soundbite, and the soundbite is lock the gates. Every podcast episode.
Oh man, that scene is so funny.
It's great, man.
I think that's part of when Dennis comes in and tries to pitch them
Mm-hmm.
Like, you guys handled that totally different. Like, you guys should have filed a lawsuit against that guy. You should have made money. You were injured. You got nothing out of this, and you damaged his property. You're going to end
Mm-hmm.
up owing him money.
Yeah.
And really, as a promoter, he owes you money. Yeah. Like, I think him explaining that, and their manager is just sitting there looking like, yeah, I guess I didn't think about any of that. His
Yeah.
whole thing was just to fight the guy off and get back in the bus and drive off.
That's exactly right. Yeah. He's like, "Do you know how to not get charged for the ice underneath the floors in the arena?" I'm like, "Oh man, that's pretty good." Like the idea of Fallon's character is, dude, when he talks to them, I may have just been the stickler in the room, but I'm like, wow, he's makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But it's the flip side of it, Phil, that Lester warned him about. Like, they're gonna ruin this for you. They've ruined music. They've put their hands into it, and it's all about money. It's all about, you know,
Yeah.
it's tough to watch that because he's not wrong about the stuff he says, but at the same time, his motivations aren't pure, you know?
Yeah, everything he's saying, he's right. And that's the sales pitch, that I know everything that your friend doesn't know. He's
Mm,
here because he's your friend, and that's his only end. But at the same time, that guy cares about your well being in a way that he doesn't, because he's not your friend.
mm, yeah. That is Noah Taylor as Dick Roswell, and he's actually he's a British actor, received many accolades over the years. He was actually in a Robin Hood show on BBC that I watched. It was actually a pretty good show, but he was in there, and I can't remember what character he was now. It was a good
Yeah.
show.
Well, I mean, some of the stuff that he does, that, he protects the band from themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And his ways of going about doing it aren't the best, but he's also attempting to look out for them in a way that somebody else might not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, everything that makes him probably not a good manager for a successful band is everything that Dennis can come in and provide for them. But like he said, once you allow Dennis in, you got to take everything that comes with that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Sinners. You gotta let the evil in.
Mm.
They're asking to be let in. You gotta invite them in.
Yeah, that's tough, but it's not wrong. And like the character was like, I think we should just let's just talk to him, just hear him out.
Yeah,
And
and you can see it when he's talking, and Jeff's the one like, oh well,
yeah,
guys, you sure we don't want to go with this guy?
yeah. They leave the bus behind and take the plane. Get to more gigs faster, make more money. Tom Clark 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark 6M Podcast sent you. Again, he's not wrong, but then it becomes less about a traveling circus and more like a corporation, more like an entity.
Yeah, you got to get to more events and make more money, because that's the bottom line
Mm,
for the label. We don't really care about the rest of this. Make as much money as you can.
yeah. John Fedovic is Ed Valancourt. That's the drummer. He's actually a drummer in real life. So that's pretty cool. We've also got Terry Chin as Ben Fong Torres. We don't see a lot of him, but I love this guy. Like, and he's a Canadian actor. I don't know what all he's done. He's been in House of Cards. Gosh, he's got a lot of credits on his a lot of credits on his, he's actually an iRobot. For some reason I can't remember what he did in that. But yeah, he's done a lot of movie and a lot of TV.
He-
Really good here.
He's great because he buys into William's whole story about, yeah. And even that like hilarious pause when his mother gets on the phone, he's like, listen, I know what happens when, I don't get up and snap to it like my lady says too.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
He just like completely buys into this kid's like um fake voice and everything. So then when he shows up and he sees him, he goes like, wait, you're William? And you expect him to be all mad. He's like, "Oh, cool," and it's just again, this just
Yeah,
shows you like everything about the entertainment business. All of this is a big joke. It's a big farce, and that's
it
basically what
is.
Banks is trying to tell him. Like, look, man, I know all of this is going to seem really cool to you, and you're going to get invited in, but like, you'll see. Wait, you'll see. And so, getting in a room with with him, and he's just like, "Oh, cool, you're just a kid," and then the way that they try to dismiss him as just a fan once he gets in there, it's also, man, it's just such, there's so much about that that is so spot on.
It is. He's like, "You're William?" He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, baby." Like, so good.
Yeah, because there's two ways to look at it. It's not just, oh, he's just a kid, but he's just a kid that we can exploit, which says everything about the entertainment business. Because it's
Yeah.
just like, oh man, not only did we get this great story out of him, we get all this, but he's just a kid. He doesn't know what we're about to do.
Mm.
Like, um, yeah, again, it's everything about what Lester says about what he should look out for, and says so much about the entertainment business, not just like just rock and roll, but also journalism and some of the stuff around it.
Yeah, it's true. Let's see. Mitch Hedberg is at that table during the card game. Did you recognize him?
I didn't.
He didn't have any lines. He was at the end of the table playing the Eagles road manager, and they introduce him, but the camera even never even gets him on camera, like for a close up. Mitch Hedberg always looked like he just walked out of a 1970s movie anyway. You know, miss Mitch, man. Great talent. Great talent. Let's see. Liz Stauber as Leslie, Russell's wife. Rainn Wilson, who's here, is David Felton. I love Rainn Wilson. Always been a big fan of that guy. He's very good. He's just sort of a corporate lackey for Rolling Stone magazine here. But yeah, this is
Yeah.
again, man, I think the music brings this to life. And I think, without the tracks, without the band behind the band, making this thing work and making it sound amazing. I mean, it's definitely not the same movie because it's got to at least look believable. And we've got Nancy Wilson from Heart, who I think she's still married to Cameron Crowe. Am I right about that?
I'm not sure. Is she?
Maybe. She's on the soundtrack, and Peter Frampton's on the soundtrack. As we said, Mike McCready's on the soundtrack. Marty Fredrickson is on the soundtrack. He's on vocals. Gordon Kennedy's on the soundtrack. Ben Smith, John Bayless, and in terms of Stillwater and it's man, really good stuff. This sucker on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way, Phil, has a 91%.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well deserved. It is a very good movie. Very well written.
yeah.
Has a lot of heart to it. Has a lot of great humor to it.
Mhm.
And just the message behind it is just so great. It's just so spot on. And maybe, like I said, it just hits differently for me as an adult. But yeah, there's so much to really like about it. There's so many really great performances and really great small moments.
Yeah, I agree. It's a coming of age story, but it's just, a little different. By the way, Red Dog, we said he was a real person. He was a roadie for the Allman Brothers and yeah, he wrote a book about his years as a roadie, which I'm sure now I want to look that up because I bet that book is phenomenal. Like,
Yeah. But that's what that's what I'm saying. The idea that his claim to fame is being a roadie for Allman Brothers. That's just the entertainment business, and like I said, the traveling circus around the entertainment business in a nutshell. Everybody's somebody. And everybody wants to be somebody. And that is apparent throughout this movie. Everybody around us wants to be somebody because they're linked to somebody that really is somebody. And just going in that room and going, "Oh yeah, you know Red Dog," and it's like, well, no, and nobody outside of that world would know who Red Dog is, but in
right,
that
yeah,
world, he's somebody.
he's somebody. Yeah, for sure. When I first got involved with a wrestling promotion, I was talking to the promoter, and man, everybody on that card was doing something
Yeah,
and had ideas and wanted to do stuff and and after a bit, I'm like, man, it feels like a lot. and I can't remember what the situation was. Somebody was trying to do something trying to get himself involved, and I'm like, "Does this happen all the time?" Fronter's like, "Man," he said, "everybody wants to be part of the show."
Yeah. Everybody wants to be. Everybody's looking for their end. Everybody's
Yeah,
looking for their opportunity.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of crossover here with the World of Rock and some other things too, for sure. By the way, the electrocution scene is also tied to something else. Supposedly, Ace Frehley from Kiss severely electrocuted on stage during a concert in 1976. And I didn't know this. Frehley's song that he wrote later called Shock Me, that's where it came from. And I had no idea. That's actually pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure things like that happen way more than we'd ever hear about. Just think about stuff that, man, I'm back to pro wrestling again. I hate to keep doing that, but stuff that happens at pro wrestling house shows that you may never know about that happened in front of a small, not a small crowd, but happened in front of a crowd in North Dakota. And only the people in that town saw it. And it was before cell phones, but they've been telling stories for years about that great show they saw that night. Do you know what I mean? It's such a weird thing, man.
Yep.
Let's see. To honor the film's 20th anniversary in 2020, the podcast Origins produced a 5-part documentary about Almost Famous with a good number of cast and crew members participating. Well, we didn't get any of the cast and crew here today, kids, but we did the best we could with it. Come on.
Yeah. Man, just such a good movie, man. Man, it's just such a great depiction of rock and roll and just that scene, especially at that time period.
Mm,
And man, one of the things I really love, you could have your gripes about women in this movie, but they never treat the groupies just like they're objects. They treat them like they're real people with
mhm,
real emotions and everything. And I think that that is a part of why Penny Lane's character works so well, because you would think that she's just there because she spends most of the movie trying to manipulate and get into these rooms and get her way, that you would think that it's the same for her, that happens to her, that she gets objectified by the men in this movie.
mm,
And you would think that a lot of what her relationship is with Russell is that she just he's just a thing, he's just an idea to her. And when you see throughout the movie that it's not just that, and that there might be more to it than that, it humanizes her.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, the real thrust of this movie, maybe almost as big as the soundtrack and the music, is the characters. Like,
Yes.
Penny Lane is desperately not just searching to fit in, but she's like, you can see when she enters the room in that hotel, she just commands the space and she owns the room.
Yes.
And everyone's kind of like paying attention to her. But you're right, man. Like, she is master of her domain, but it's not real. It's almost like I had to escape. Like, I
Yeah.
got to escape, go into this world, and I'm somebody here. I'm important. I'm one of the many people here, but I have a place and it's important, and I matter, and we don't sleep with the talent. We do a lot more than that. We're band-aids. We're not, and I'm like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like, you're almost crafting your own narrative, to kind of justify your existence in that world and just create something different for yourself.
Yeah, and just to go from place to place to follow the band. Because look, I have a place here. Like, I'm a band-aid, and then not just that, you deluded yourself into believing that you could be Russell's girlfriend.
Mhm.
Because I have a place here. Like, and I love that they made a point to have William at multiple points say, "I have to go home." It's not just I have to go home to finish this article, but I have to get out of this. It's like going to Vegas for a weekend, and everything about it is fun. Everything that happens stays in Vegas. It's kind of like all of this glitz and lights and everything. But at some point, I got to get out of here, man. You can't be there for a whole weekend, man, because it gets exhausting, man.
Yeah.
And so I think having William be this kid that's like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go home. And at every turn where he's like, I gotta get out of here, everybody around is like, no, what do you mean? And she tells him at one point, well, you are home. Because that's what she's deluded herself into believing. This is it. This
Yeah.
just traveling with the band, this is it for me. And I
And then
think
in
that's That's also why it's so great, the scene of her going home and getting
Yeah.
a phone call from Russell, and he wants to go see her at home. Like, no, what are we gonna do when you come see me here? Because everything we had was on the road. This isn't like my real life isn't nearly as appealing to you.
Mm.
And you as a real person isn't nearly as appealing either. It's kind of like, to make a comic book reference, it's kind of like when Felicia finds out that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Spider
Mm.
Spider-Man, the whole allure of Spider-Man and everything, that's what I fell in love with. The guy behind that mask, he's not nearly as interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the Black Cat story from the comics for sure. I forget who did that run, but like she didn't even want to look at Peter at all. Like he had to be in costume. That's a great point because like the fictional world that we all share together, that's I can't have that here. I have to have that separate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think when I'm in that world and I felt rejected by you, yeah, it hurt. But once I got back home, it's like, well, wait a minute. None of that was really real. And I think that
Mm.
that's what William is trying to shake her and go, like, what are you talking about? Like, real. That's not even your name. I've asked you multiple times what your name is. Like,
Mm.
none of this is real. That's not even your real name. Like, none of this is what you think it is.
And she had been telling him that you want to go to Morocco with me. They talked about it a couple times, and then she ends up going. So, dude, she gets her happy ending at the end of the film, man.
Yes. Uh, yeah, I love that he calls her out on that too. Like, there's no Morocco
Yeah,
because
there never was a Morocco. Yeah,
was a Morocco, and again, there's this dichotomy because she's essentially doing to him what Russell did to her. He's
yeah,
selling him on this idea of like, yeah, there's a happy ending at the end of this. Like, maybe I'll leave my wife, maybe we'll be serious. There's never going to be a serious relationship with
mm,
Russell. Just like this idea of her leaving the life and having a life with this kid in Morocco, that's not real. That's just what I'm telling you in the moment because it sounds good.
yeah. I mean, let's be honest. The real world, apart from fictional worlds, sucks.
It
So,
does.
like, you know, I
It's
get it,
it's
man.
boring.
It is boring. Like, and it's a Phil. This. It's adrenaline. It's euphoria. It's creativity. It's again a small wrestling ring in a small town where for one night, like you were involved with guys who were just. It's God. It's so hard to put into words. If people have never experienced sort of a world sort of apart, God, I'm making it sound bigger than what it is, but you get it. Like if you've never experienced anything like that, I mean, if I had to compare it to anything, let's just say sports. If you had a minor league baseball team or whatever, and it feels so real. It feels like this is the most important thing in the world. But then when the game's over, you go back home and you're not with those guys, and you're like, yeah, it's not really the real world at all. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. What does Lester call them? They're all gonna try and sell you all of these things. They're swill merchants. That's what he said.
Yes.
They're swill merchants. They're all trying to sell you on this idea so that you can give them what they want. So you
Yeah.
can write something favorable about them so that they can continue to look cool. And man, it's just man, a lot of what he says hits so hard. But I also
Mm,
think the funny thing about Lester is when you look at the idea of him and he's seen it all, he's done it all, and at his age, at the point where he's done all of these things that what he wants to do, he's alone.
mm,
And he's very idiocentric and all of these other things. But William still thinks he's cool. And from the outside looking in, he is cool. Like
mm,
everything about him is like, yeah, he might not think that, but like just this idea of somebody that gets to cover rock and roll music is cool.
yeah. I've forgotten this bit because I've listened to Hedberg so much over the years, but he did have a bit where he referred to this movie and he was talking about smoking pot with Peter Frampton on the scene, but it was fake pot. And he says, "But I got to smoke fake pot with Peter Frampton." He says, "That's a cool story. It's as cool as smoking real pot with a guy who looks like Peter Frampton. I've done that way more."
Yeah, see, yeah, that man,
It's great,
the entertainment business is so funny, man.
right? Yeah, it's awesome. There's so much stuff here, man.
Yeah, because man, just this idea that you'll get these experiences and these stories, but at the end of the day, you still are going to go back to who you really are at home.
Yeah.
And I think there's something important about the people that see you who you really are at home outside of that place.
Mhm.
I think that's why the scene at the end of Russell coming to his house and actually seeing like his home, it means something. Because the whole time, Lester's trying to get him to understand, like, listen, these guys are not your friend. That guy's not your friend. But it's a very special thing to see who somebody is outside of the road and go to their home. You don't just let anybody in your house.
No, no.
You don't just introduce anybody to your parents.
You're right, man. The crossing of the worlds is a very weird thing here, you know?
Yeah. But they make a point to do that for William for him to understand what's important to him. I think he has to learn that lesson.
Mhm.
Because I mean, at the end of this movie, it doesn't show all. It shows the that the cover story actually happened. It shows like the success, but at the same time, they're very much telling you like the show goes on. All of this stuff goes on, but he's at home with his family
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
because that's what really matters.
And it ain't over. It ain't over because did you see that Rolling Stone cover at the end?
Yeah.
Russell is showcased and all the band are hidden behind him. Like,
Yes.
dude.
Yes. They
Yeah,
go right back to the bus,
yeah.
and the bus has a sign on it that says "No plane."
Yeah, no planes, 1974. Yeah. So, what happened in this fictional world with Stillwater? Like, do they stay together? Are they split up by 77? I mean, do they make it big? I don't know. It's hard to say, right?
Well, everything. It's so funny that everything about this in the entertainment business is cyclical. All of these little small stories are microcosms of what happens to everyone in the entertainment business.
Mm.
The way that by the end of the movie, William is upset because they used Penny up and then threw her away. It's the exact same thing that the entertainment business is going to do to them as a band. They're going to use them up, and then once they're done with them, they're done. Because that's how these things work.
Yeah, that's true. We always, maybe not always, but often see the word sequel will come up. It's just not that kind of film.
No.
Like I don't know what you could have done. I mean, it's based. A lot of this is based on real incidents that happened with Crow because Crow was a very young writer working for Rolling Stone and other magazines. So like a lot of this stuff is real. At least you know adapted and names have changed to protect the guilty, I guess. But
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, there is no. I don't think it needs to be a sequel because what we know about history, and Bang's words are very telling at the beginning of the movie because yeah, rock and roll after that period was considered like the golden era of rock and roll. Everything changed.
mhm.
Everything changed. The bands changed. The the music business changed. Everything changed. There was something pure about that time period, and it just changed. And I think that's kind of the point at the end. Like it's supposed to feel like this happy ending, but at the same time, I think the whole point of William going home, and once you leave that world, it just keeps going.
Yeah.
It keeps going like you were never there.
As work is the same way. You've left work in a particular environment. So have I, brother. They didn't stop. Nothing stopped because Tom left. They didn't close the doors. They're still going now. You know what I mean? Like even though you put all that time in that work and you missed family time and you missed holidays and you missed funerals and weddings and birthdays and anniversaries and gave, but then when you left, nothing. They're still going. Which works much different than anything else. I get it, but still, you invest so much time, so much of your own time into something, and to see it like still keep going. Well, and Kate Hudson, we didn't mention here, was nominated for a Academy Award for Best Actress. Like we said, a lot of accolades here. Go through it here. Best as well as Best Actress in a Supporting Role. Kate Hudson nominated. Frances McDormand nominated. Cameron Crowe nominated for Best Screenplay, Best Original Screenplay. They were nominated for let's see, the screenplay won, and they were also nominated for best film editing, which they did not win. They were nominated for British Academy Film Awards. Best Actress in a Supporting Role, Kate Hudson won for a Golden Globe. It got Best Film Musical or Comedy, as we said earlier, Golden Globe won. Grammy Awards, of course, Best Compilation Soundtrack. Yeah, a lot of good stuff here, man. A lot of stuff. Movie definitely stands out for sure, and sort of exists in its own little time capsule as well. But it's really good stuff. And kids, if you are younger, then you probably don't know a whole lot about the way these guys dressed and the hair and the clothes and the music that, the vinyls that are being looked at and talked about, Simon and Garfunkel. But if you've never gone down the rabbit hole of all that old music, I mean, you should, because there's some gems in those 70s music. Just some great stuff, man. Like, I was an 80s kid growing up, Phil, and like, I am not of that era. Like, I appreciate a lot of stuff from that time, but like, I can't sit here and say there was a lot of crap in the 80s, a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
these bands just getting thrown at the wall, that MTV generation. I'm like, man, a lot of this, I just hate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, everything changed towards the 80s and 90s, the era of synthesizers and stuff. Everything changed.
It's
And
true.
so a lot of what is considered classic rock is heralded that way for a reason. I mean, a lot of stuff that I got into uh, like as a teenager and that I feel was like iconic rock albums is from that time period, early
Yeah.
70s, mid 70s. I mean, I've told you before, one of my favorite albums ever, Disraeli Gears, from that time period.
Hmm. That's in the archives, kids. We've covered that one. So yeah.
Yeah, Cream is mentioned multiple times, not
Hmm.
not just the magazine. The band is mentioned multiple times in this movie.
Yep, it's true. Zeppelin, of course, is mentioned.
Yeah, Zeppelin, of course, great run of albums. They're considered like one of the foundational figures for classic rock in that era.
Yeah. Again, the references here, the pop culture references, Rolling Stone magazine. I had a subscription to Rolling Stone back in the day, one of the biggest magazines of all time. And Phil, even and we got a taste of it here about what Bangs was warning him of. Rolling Stone changed. Like, it just became
Yeah.
such a corporate. You and I have talked before about countdowns they'll have, and I think we went through what was the biggest rap acts of all time, and we're sitting there going, "What?"
Yeah.
Like,
Because, man, it's a different time. Like, there's people that want to write these things about just how much they love the music. And,
yeah,
you know, they want to tell like honest stories about the music. And that's not, especially now in the digital age, that's just not what generates clicks.
yeah, very true, very true. Well, we don't want to end on a down note, kids, but it's a fascinating thing to see what's happened to music since the '70s. And again, if you didn't live through it, just go look. There's plenty of I'm sure great documentaries that talk about it. I'm sure plenty of great books that talk about it. Just the way, as Phil said, everything just changed. I mean, it just is. And Phil, maybe it wasn't this way, but it just always felt like it was so simple at one time, but like it's not simple anymore, man. I think MTV had a lot to do with that too.
Yeah. But I mean, money. Money changes everything. Not
True.
not just like how Mercedes says it, but money really does change everything. Money complicates everything. It complicates friendships, and buddy, when there's money to be made off of anything, you best believe it's gonna change.
Yeah.
And I don't care what it is, anything. It could be just as simple as, "Hey, I like this burger place." Once it
Mhm.
starts becoming lucrative, everything is gonna change.
Yeah, it's true. Well, kids, there you have it. There is our review of Almost Famous. It only took several years to get this done, but it's one of those things that it's kind of always been there, available to do. And kudos to this film for still standing the test of time, because I think it very much does. 25 years old this year, as we said before. Milestone achievement for Cameron Crowe, in terms of like still being relevant, still fans still loving this movie. Again, it's still one of my personal favorites. Such a great flick, folks. And if you haven't seen it, we just ruined the whole thing for you. But if you have seen it, then you know what we're talking about. Again, a very enjoyable film. We hope you've enjoyed this here today. Phil, before we get out of here, let's get your last word on Almost Famous.
Really great movie. It's a reason why it is a cult classic. I think that it is refreshing in its take on the music business at that time, but it's also a very warm and poignant coming of age movie. It's gotten a lot of accolades. It's gotten for a reason.
Yeah, that's fair. And well, there's other biopics, kids. There's a Beatles biopic coming in a couple of years, and
Five parter or four parter?
4 movies released at the same time.
Oh no, that's gonna work.
I don't know what in the world would possess anybody to do this. This is the budget has to be $1 billion or more. I don't know how it couldn't be. Like how are you going to be able to afford? And like we've said this before, Phil, is that we're Beatles guys, but you're not getting two of the Beatles input here. Like,
Yeah, I mean, well, how are you going to make money on this? Because you're expecting people to go out to the movies and see all four of these movies around the same time period. It's not like you're releasing them months or years apart. They're all coming out at the same time. So I just don't know how that's going to work.
I don't know, and it seems to me to be the laws of diminishing returns. Like eventually, one of these movies is not going to make. You know what? We could be wrong, and each movie is going to do incredibly great business for it being 4 movies at one time. I don't know, but
Yeah, I'm sure that's what some executive somewhere is like. Oh, it's the Beatles. They'll go see all four of these movies. Like, let's squeeze as much money out of this as we can.
yeah, it'll be fine. Be fine. Yeah. There's been many moments over the years where I'm like, if John were here, what he'd say. I could just imagine John going, "Oh, this is how they're going to do it." Well, it figures. Like, look what we became. We're just 4 movies. That's all we are. Great.
Yeah, um, it's sad that I can't imagine certain artists dying of old age because we're just so used to all of these guys dying young.
Yeah.
And so I just don't even know what an old John Lennon would look like. Like I just can't imagine us getting to that place.
Yeah. God, such a shame. It's a big statement, right? Because John was killed in 1980, right?
Hmm.
I've read it that's been written, and I'm sure many of people have said it since that happened, that's the day rock changed. That's you could mark. Well, that's when, whether or not it's true, I don't know. How much influence could a guy who was, just sort of discovering his singles career and in a good place in his life, and things were getting back on track for him. But, maybe it's just the timing of it all. But like, had John lived, would he have been a producer? Would he have been? Because I don't know if I could imagine John on stage somewhere. I think he'd already given that up, and he was fine to give it up. But like, yeah, you just never can tell, man.
Yeah. Yeah, this illusion of a rock and roll star. It's sad because like I said, we all I don't know, man. We all believe in this illusion and like this image so much that it's just like the idea of this movie and the idea of an actual relationship with Russell isn't as interesting as chasing a relationship with him.
Mm,
And the idea of like some of these guys as old men isn't as interesting as their lives as rock stars.
yeah.
And it's sad again it's like man live fast and hard and burn out quick, and it's just like sad that that's what it is, and that's what a lot of people see it as.
That is what it is. Yeah, for better or worse, that's what it is. Definitely right. Well, there you have it, kids. Almost Famous in the can. Be sure to check out the archives if you haven't dove in. There's plenty of episodes for you to do. So over 240 of them, and we're still churning away. Thanks everybody for supporting the show and for visiting Boink Studios on the YouTube. Thanks for supporting all the podcast hosts that you hear here on the shows on Boink Studios. We appreciate your time and your energy, and for following, subscribing, and liking, and all that good stuff. And again, as we said, stay tuned for a lot more. But for now, that is Almost Famous. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.